I don't think you have the qualification to talk about Mao and China.
I don't
because
think
you're
I
not
would be
historian
given a
on
visa.
China, and you
I
don't
think I'd
have
be
been
given
to
a visa.
have not been to China.
Have you
So
been to
now,
the moon, or can you?
having
Have you been
said
to the
that,
moon? Can you talk about
having said
astronomy
that-
if you haven't been to the moon?
Well, that Piers Morgan panel escalated quickly. Hey guys, welcome back to the show, your home for independent and nonpartisan commentary and analysis on politics, media, internet insanity, and more. In this episode, we are going to check back in with the crazy world of Piers Morgan Uncensored, which, as chaotic as it is, as dramatic as it can be, is in fact one of my favorite shows. I do enjoy the drama, the exchanges, the debates, and all that. And I think this was most likely prompted by Hasan Piker, the leftist streamer and star who's having a bit of a moment in the rise of the far left in America more broadly. But of course, he's infamously supported Chairman Mao, who was responsible for tens of millions of deaths, both due to famines and beatings and executions as well, and other forms of torturing people during his time in the 20th century, leading China through the Great Leap Forward and then the following Cultural Revolution. Well, Hasan is a huge and unabashed Chairman Mao fan, which I guess prompted Piers Morgan to host a debate between Victor Davis Hanson, who is a conservative intellectual, and the Maoist historian Professor Mobo Gao. It got crazy. Without further ado, let's just check out the clip we got here.
Welcome to Uncensored, Professor Gao. We just heard Victor Davis Hanson, one of America's foremost historians, condemning Mao. Explain to my audience why you think that Mao has been unfairly assessed by history.
Thank you for having me. Yes, perhaps first of all, I might ask Mr. Hanson, have you been to China?
No.
No. You're not a historian.
Have you been to Have you been to Greece?
No, we're not talking about Greece.
No,
we're talking about
no, we're
Mao.
talking about Western civilization. I'm talking about Western civilization.
I'm talking about Mao. I'm talking about Mao. I don't think you have the legitimacy. I don't think you have the qualification to talk about Mao and China.
I don't
because
think
you're
I
not
would be
historian
given a
on
visa.
China, and you
I
don't
think I'd
have
be
been
given a
to,
visa.
have not been to China.
Have
So
you been to
now,
the moon, or have you
having
been to
said
the
that-
moon? Can you talk about
having said
astronomy
that-
if you haven't been to the moon?
Yeah, all right. We've already got to stop here because this is just so incredibly unserious. First, as Victor Davis Hanson mentions, you cannot, in fact, easily just go to China if you are an American who is very outspoken against the Chinese Communist Party. I would not go to China because I have at various times criticized the Chinese government or the CCP, and I'm not sure I would feel comfortable to do so. What's more, you can learn about things through historical records. First off, we're talking about a period of Chinese history that was many decades ago, so modern day China isn't necessarily going to inform you based on that. So you can read the historical records and form an opinion about something you've extensively studied without having been there or not. In fact, a lot of people have been to China and, like Hasan Piker, are totally misinformed about Chairman Mao. And then people who haven't, in fact, been to China still could have a very educated opinion. It's just, you've never been, have you ever been there? It's not a good argument, because whatever Victor Davis Hanson is saying about Chairman Mao and how evil he is either true or false on its own merits. But were somebody else sitting in that seat who had been to China many times, it wouldn't somehow, that argument would be more or less correct or compelling. It's very silly. For also some other reasons, which, for example, in China, the discussion around Chairman Mao is heavily censored. Heck, when Hasan Piker went there, they stopped him on his live stream and demanded to see his phone because they thought that he had a meme on his phone mocking Mao, and he didn't. He had a meme praising Mao. But it's like, yes, please, in order to truly understand Chairman Mao, you have to go to China, where actual discussion about Chairman Mao is heavily censored. Make it make sense. You really can't. And the fact that he had to immediately go to this kind of silly, fallacious ad hominem attack is not a great sign about this professor's ability to mount an actual defense for Chairman Mao. which I don't really understand how that's even a thing. Like, we don't really do this with Hitler or the other great villains of history. Let's debate whether or not he was great or not. Debate's kind of settled on that one, and it should be settled on Chairman Mao, but because of Hassan and his ilk that he draws from ideologically, it's apparently not. So we're left with this. Anyway, let's keep going here.
You're absurd.
You're not talking sense. But anyway, let me start answering Piers Morgan's question. Why do I think Mao is a great leader of China and changed China, and the Chinese people think that as well? And this is interesting because this is the 50th anniversary of the death of Mao. And if you look at how the Chinese think, both inside the Chinese Communist Party and outside, and ordinary people, and the anecdotal evidence plus comprehensive research, rigorous research, demonstrate that Mao is the founder of the People's Republic of China, and without him, there would not be a success of the 1949 Chinese Revolution. And China is, as it is today, is due to largely his leadership. So now you're talking about, Piers Morgan mentioned this, which is a cliche, that Mao was the greatest butcher in the world, like Stalin.
Is it a cliche?
Hitler. This is a cliche. It's a total cliche. I don't know why you're still repeating it. No, it's not. It's not.
It's a fact. He was responsible. Mao was responsible for the deaths of up to 80 million people.
No, it's not.
If you or your child spent years growing up on social media and experienced serious mental health issues, you should hear this. Recently, a jury ordered Meta and YouTube to pay millions for their role in designing and promoting addictive platforms. They knew their apps could contribute to anxiety, depression, and body image issues, but did not share those risks while prioritizing profits. The recent historic verdict underscores the consequences of those decisions. Now, Morgan & Morgan is stepping up to hold these platforms accountable for the harm they caused. Click the link in my bio to take a short quiz, as you may be entitled to a potential recovery of over $1,000. Now back to the show. Wow, this is breathtaking. Where do they find these people who are willing to stake their careers and names on such insane perspectives? But yeah, so one thing to discuss about this is the professor's point. Part of his point seems to be that, well, Chairman Mao remains very popular in China among the Chinese people. Okay, and what does that prove exactly? Discussion of Chairman Mao's legacy and the real facts about what happened is heavily censored in China, so I'm not sure that it's not as if that, even if you take at face value, because I don't know the underlying public opinion or how reliable it is in China to even poll such things, but even if you take that at completely face value, I'm not sure what that proves, because it is not the product of a free and open debate on Mao's legacy. It's the product of both extensive censorship and then also the fact that they've been propagandized with this like glorifying version of history and events from a very young age in China about Chairman Mao. So no, actually, that's not anything close to a compelling argument or point. Well, he's popular in China. Just look at all the polls. Okay, and even if that's true, doesn't make him any less of a monster. And I'm sorry, but why are we calling objective facts a cliche? It is objectively, factually, historically true that tens of millions of people died under Chairman Mao because of the mass famines that he caused with his policies, and he doubled down on even as horrific reports came in. And then even aside from that, because some people want to just write that off as, well, that wasn't intentional, that was just, bad policy outcomes, though at a certain point it becomes intentional when you keep pushing and pushing and pushing, even as what you're doing is causing catastrophe. But even then, like over 1 million people he directly killed or tortured, or his regime did in response to backlash against what he was doing in his time in charge. So it's like, you really can't make this stuff up, that they're to call that a cliche What? How? And then the idea that, oh, well, the reason that they have the amazing People's Republic of China today is because of Chairman Mao. First off, is the amazing People's Republic of China in the room with us today? Because that's kind of a dystopian society, if you ask me. Now, what is true is that they have raised millions and hundreds of millions of people out of poverty in China. That is true. But ironically enough, that happened in more recent decades. Like that happened since 1980, the last 30 or 40 years. And that happened because of the liberalization in the classical sense, the move towards capitalism and free trade in China. So moving away from like Maoist style command and control economies is what led to the prospering of China that did lead to a massive decrease in poverty in the country. So whatever positive aspects, because you can criticize the kind of dystopian and authoritarian nature of China today, but you can't argue against the fact that they've become an economic powerhouse, certainly. But it's in spite of their socialist and communist history, not because of it. And while they still have, a pretty heavy-handed government, all things considered, it was the freeing up of their economy that led to those massive decreases in poverty. So this is one of those debates that I'm almost not even sure is really worth having, because you're just talking past each other. You're just existing in entirely different universes, right? There's no shared reality. There's no common factual ground whatsoever. And I think that became apparent by just how stunned Piers was to hear this dude just denying facts. But I don't know what his background is. Maybe he was also propagandized and has been told an alternate version of history than the entire rest of the world. Who knows? But either way, it's not very productive or compelling. And it's depressing. It's very demoralizing to me that we're now like relitigating extremely basic ideas, like whether authoritarian mass murderers are bad or not. This is fine. Everything is going amazing, guys. I don't know. Y'all will have to let me know what you think in the comments below. I always find Piers' show fascinating, even though sometimes the things people say on it, like kids say the darndest things, right? Like that old saying. Piers Morgan guests say the darndest things. That's the truth. And so somebody asked me recently when I'm going back on Piers Morgan, and because I was on once before, and I'm a longtime admirer of Piers. But I think the truth is I would go back on anytime they ask me, but they haven't, at least since that first time. The truth is that they probably know I'm not going to say anything too crazy, right? And so I'm not a shock jock. I'm not going to defend the indefensible on either extreme, and I'll just have some nuanced opinion. It's probably very similar to what Piers's take is, so maybe I'm not adding value to the panel in that sense, but I would definitely go back. I hope to go back, and regardless, I'll keep watching with interest, because I do enjoy the freak show of the crazy takes and people that get trotted out on there at times. I am not complaining. I'm sitting here munching with my popcorn with all of y'all. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed if you aren't yet. Do hit that like button and consider becoming a channel member to support me in my independent commentary and analysis. Hit the join button or click the link in the description. With that, guys, we'll leave it there for now and be back with more real soon.